to all of you. This is your second lecture, kan? The second lecture, so I will start with the subtopic dulu. So you have 4 subtopic. This not they share with you in the ITEL, right? ITEL. So the first one, 2.1, cell theory. Second one, prokaryotes and eukaryote. Third, microscopic structure. So you are able to compare between plant and animal in a microscopic point of view. And then last one, how your cells they become tissue. They work together, they form tissue, and this tissue they arrange together, they form organ. This organ work together, they become organ system. And this organ system later they will become complete organism. Okay, organisme yang sempurna. Seperti Anda semua sempurna. Okay. One more thing, kalau biology, it's okay if I mix kan, mix English BM atau mau full BM, full BM, mix lah. Sebab this one you need to familiarize with English terms. So dalam foundation and degree level, we will focus more on English language. So I know some of you in your previous school, you learn in BM kan, so the terms is interchangeable. So if you have a problem with the terms in Malay, you want to change to English, just ask. Ya, kalau ada terms-terms kamu tidak familiar dengan terms dalam English, because you study in BM kan. Okay, every lecture you need to judge yourself. Kamu kena judge yourself how much you understand the topic. So setiap habis lecture kamu kena baca balik course note kamu. Are you able to understand or explain and describe all these subtopic? So kadang kamu kena baca course note kamu, sama ada kamu boleh capai semuanya. Boleh? Okay, so when we learn biology, we need to learn, kita kena start dari organization. We know that we are a complete organism, living organism. Everything around us, macam the tree, and then different animals, right? Different animals. Beda macam-macam bentuk, but they are actually originate from the same thing. Semua living organism di dunia ini, plant, animal, humans, semua dia terbuat dari benda yang sama, which is cells. And the cells will be organized into tissue, tissue will be organized into organ system, and they become organism. And then in between organism, you will communicate with each other. Macam kita ni population agri-science, populasi pelajar agri-science. And every science will communicate, will interact with other program. Belajar sains, belajar IT, belajar sains sosial. So kamu sudah jadi community of science, asasi science, asasi UMS, community asasi UMS. Atau kita panggil di sini AUMS, AUMS, AUMS 16 lah no. You are AUMS 16. Then your populations, a community, you will interact with the non-living components in UMS. Conversely, air, water, especially electricity. So that is your ecosystem. Ecosystem dalam campus UMS. So ecosystem compare with your friend in other university, like USM, UKM, UITM. So itu jadi kaumnya biosphere lah semua. Nah, so itu ecosystem organization in biology. In order to understand biology, you need to study this one independently, each one of them. So for this chapter, we will focus on cell. The rest of the chapter maybe you will focus on others, like organ system, organism, and chapter-chapter yang seterusnya. Chapter hari ini kita akan fokus dengan sel. Apa itu sel? Apa beza sel haiwan dengan sel tumbuhan? Apa beza sel bakteria? Apa beza sel dan macam-macam lagi lah. What is the difference? dan sedang tidur.
Everything that lives is made of cells, even us. Although we can't see them, trillions of cells within our body work together to give us the gift of life. These tiny units of life fascinate biologists like Royce Rensberger.
The entire human body is made out of cells for the things that cells are made, such as bone. Skin is made of cells, your heart is made of cells, the muscles that operate the body so that you can move, these things are all made of cells, including the brain itself, which sends electrical signals around from one cell to the other so that we can think. All these different kinds of cells work fundamentally the same way. When you look inside the cell, you see the same kinds of structures.
Cells come in all sorts of sizes and shapes. They're so small that we need a microscope to see them. Inside of every eukaryotic cell is a microscopic factory that runs off chemical reactions. At the center, the nucleus acts as the cell's brain and controls its activities. It also holds the DNA, the instructions for life. The cell's membrane protects each cell and takes in the raw materials it needs to stay alive. Water, nutrients, and waste move into and out of the cell all the time. These materials may hitch a ride along the cell's transport network, a network made up of microtubules and intracellular membranes. The cell's transport network picks up, transports, and delivers material throughout the cell. The cell breaks down raw materials into the building blocks it needs to grow. This ability to take in vital materials allows the cell to function and perform specific tasks.
The instructions that are in the cells, starting in embryonic development, tell each cell how to change to take on a new function. Also, the cells monitor the activities going on. If there's a wound, the cells can sense that.
Ya Pak.
Everything that lives is made of cells, even us. Ogni cellula è cellulare. the raw materials it needs to stay alive. Water, nutrients, and waste move into and out of the cell all the time. These materials may hitch a ride along the cell's transport network, a network made up of microtubules and intracellular membranes. The cell's transport network picks up, transports, and delivers material throughout the cell. The cell breaks down raw materials into the building blocks it needs to grow. This ability to take in vital materials allows the cell to function and perform specific tasks.
The instructions that are in the cells, starting in embryonic development, tell each cell how to change to take on a new function. Also, the cells monitor the activities going on. If there's a wound, the cells can sense that, and they will send out the message to other cells to come and repair the damage. So all of this keeps the whole body on a kind of an even keel.
Our cells work together in extraordinary ways. The heart, for example, is made up of muscle cells with a tendency to twitch. Separately, they twitch to their own rhythm, but together they beat as one. Billions of them work together to give us a heartbeat. These muscle cells survive as long as we do, but throughout the body, cells die and get replaced all the time. Our body produces new cells through mitosis, the process where one cell divides into two. Since we're constantly losing and replacing cells, most cells in our body are actually younger than we are.
Okay, so from the video they introduced many functions of cells and then how some cells are different from others, right? Like the muscle cells, they can twitch. And the nerve cells communicate, they can undergo electrical impulse. They boleh send signals dalam bentuk electrics. So ada different cell, dia ada different function. Functions dia tu related dengan dia punya structure. Macam muscle cells tu structure dia supaya dia boleh berdiri, macam contract and relax. Like our arms, some part of our muscles they work together. Yang di bawah relax, yang di atas contract. So you can move your arms. Boleh berdiri gitu. Okay. So your nerve cells structure dia begitu, nipis, ini dia ada many ganglia and so on, so that it can transmit electrical impulse. Yeah. And then one more thing in the video, there are so many things in the video. We explain, talk about cells. One of the things is your cells can be repaired. Okay, not repaired. Your cells can renew. Whenever you kalau terluka di luar, kalau di hati sel tidak boleh membantu. Kalau ada luka, your cells will undergo cell division. Dia ulang kan tadi the video, mitosis. So they will undergo mitosis, they divide, they renew your damaged cells. Kulit kamu luka, they akan renew to undergo mitosis. So cells ni is everything in our body. So you can define cells as the smallest structural unit that can perform life function. Benda paling kecil di dalam badan kita yang boleh perform life function. For example, if you see bacteria is very small, even smaller than our cell. Sel kita lebih besar dari bacteria. Tapi the bacteria is a one cell, they can perform all the life function. Dia sudah boleh hidup sendiri dengan satu sel. Jadi that's why dia bagi situ dia punya point. So keywords is define. You need to give 2 points. Smaller structural unit that can perform biological functions that I highlighted in red. One more thing is if you want to answer biology questions, you look at the marks given. Macam dalam tutorial itu ada markah kan? Yang soalan pertama 2 markah. Jadi at least you need to give 2 points for you to get full marks. Kalau kamu cuma tulis satu saja, the smallest structural unit of organism, 1/2 lah. Jadi kena ada 2 poin. Kalau mark ada 4 atau 3, macam mana kamu mau tambah poinnya? If the questions they require 3 marks, they give you 3 marks. How can you answer? Give example, very good. Give example. Ini tambah example dapat 3 mark, 3/3. Kalau kamu bagi 10 example, kamu akan dapat 12 mark. Tidak, buat 3 mark. Kalau dia minta 10 mark, bagilah 10 example. Baru kamu dapat 10 mark. Boleh kan? Very easy to answer. Kalau dalam subjek sains ini yang paling senang ialah biology. Fisik lagi susah, maths lagi susah, chemistry lagi susah. Yang paling tinggi itu is the theoretical physics lah, Einstein and so on. You don't have to minat biology to score biology because biology is very simple compared to other subjects. Kalau saya pun, for me personally, I lagi minat fisik lah because of Einstein, Stephen Hawking. Dia ada era-era kan. Macam kalau biology itu kamu need to always question the things around you. Kalau kamu boleh ada trigger your desire to learn. You need to trigger your desire to learn. Kamu kena unlock diri kamu sendiri untuk belajar. Tidak semestinya kamu minat, tapi kamu kena trigger diri kamu untuk ada keinginan belajar. Macam kamu makan, tidak semestinya kamu minat makan kan? Tapi kamu ada keinginan untuk makan, sebab kamu tahu why you need to eat, right? Untuk terus hidup. Same thing with learning anything. If you don't like biology, you need to trigger yourself. Why I need to study biology? Macam kalau fisik, like for example of fisik, dia ada era-era. The first era is gravity. Macam mana teori gravity itu terhasil? Isaac Newton, dia duduk santai kan, dia bawa pokok. Dia pernah cerita itu betul ke dia. Tapi this is what we taught in history. Dia duduk dan buah apple. Dia tidak tanya, dia tidak marah. Kenapa apple bisa tenang-tenang pokok? Kalau kita begitu sudah adalah stres dan pokok buah kelapa lagi. Kalau durian lagi susah. So orang yang berpikir nih macam Isaac Newton, ditanya kenapa apple itu jatuh? So dari situ terjadi teori gravity. Apple jatuh, dia tes dengan benda yang berat macam dumbbell, dia throw coins, kena juga walaupun kecil dia berat jatuh, dia throw kapas jatuh tapi perlahan. So daripada konklusinya dia buat eksperimen, semua benda ada akan jatuh because of some force, and that force is gravity. Terus selepas gravity ada Einstein, era teori relativity kan, relativity. Macam kita buat bom atom semua lah. Terus itu ada lagi satu era, now we are in the era of Stephen Hawking era, black hole. Dia kaji black hole in the whole universe, Stephen Hawking. Dia ada beli buku dia tu, tebal. Apa nama buku dia tu? Tebal, tapi very interesting buku. Sampai sekarang saya belum baca, dia bersifat akademik kan. Kita kalau akademik ni jadi you need to trigger yourself. Macam mana kamu mau baca buku tu? Mesti kamu mau tahu. So saya beli buku tu, bila saya naik flight gitu kan, tengok ada kaitan dengan teori-teori Einstein dengan relativity, dengan black hole dan everything. Bila kita tengok movie, so kita mau tahu lah. So you need to ask yourself, paling easy to trigger is biology. Kalau kamu bangun-bangun, why human need to sleep? Biology. Why we need to eat? Biology. Why we need to reproduce? Biology. Sekarang kecoh, media sosial kecoh pasal kes-kes curang, kan? So perempuan dia memang minatlah gosip-gosip gitu. Tapi it's in nature. Kalau secara biologi, tengoklah binatang mana ada dia stay dengan satu pasangan kan? Ada yang nampak yang more attractive, they will go to the other animals. So it's in their nature. Tapi yang membedakan binatang dengan human is kewarasan. So kita waras sesuai kecurangan itu masih satu kesalahan. Tapi kalau kucing tidak, dia balik tiba-tiba dia berangkat lain kali dia punya yang di rumah orang bukan mungkin jiran-jiran di sebelah rumah. So itu sebab kita belajar biology. So we can explain our daily life, anything that happen around us. Jadi bila kamu balik kampung, your parents kamu cakap pasal gosip, kamu boleh bagi pendapat dari segi biologi. Tahukah anda, tiba-tiba sekarang, tahukah anda curang itu adalah satu alami, benda yang alami. Okay, so itu yang first definition of cell. Lepas ni, throughout the lecture, we will compare between definitions of tissue, organ, and organ system. Apa beza definition dia? So kalau cells, what we know about cell is we cannot see using our eyes. Jadi kita ada yang we can see, and then something that we cannot see, we need to use microscope. And your first lab will be using microscope. Lab kamu pertama minggu depan. The most important skills that you need to acquire for biologists, especially for you, agri-science program, is microscopy. Kamu benar pandai dengan mikroskop. Ya. Jadi lab kamu yang pertama ialah mikroskop. Di sini saya akan cerita sedikit secara teori. Tapi teori itu tidak sehebat, tidak sedekat dengan praktikal. Kamu sentuh betul-betul mikroskop. Kalau kamu banyak duit, kamu belilah satu mikroskop. Kita dipilih. Yang murah di Shopee, yang plastik lah. Kalau first slide setengah jam sudah. Don't worry. Okay, so the second things that explained in the video is all cells, all living things are made of cells. Means cell is the basic unit of life. Kalau kita mau relate dengan real life, macam bangunan ini lah. Kita relate dia dengan bangunan. Apa asas bangunan? Kita tidak suruh tukang buruh tiba-tiba dia keluar dari lori, bangunan, gitu kan? No. Same thing with human and animal and plant. Kita kena arrange dengan benda yang asas yang kecil. Macam kita main Lego lah, tahu kata Lego? Lego kita boleh buat kereta, boleh buat spaceship, boleh buat sekarang Lego boleh buat bunga, kan? Bunga-bunga. Sekarang orang tidak guna bunga betul, bunga Lego, bunga plastik. So kalau bangunan ini mungkin dia punya asas is the bricks, cement, atapnya ataupun the steels and so on. So kalau animal dia punya asas is animal cell. Kalau plant cell. So setiap dia punya basic building blocks itu berbeza. Okay? Sama juga macam human. We come from single cells, embryo. Sperm, ovum fuse together jadi embryo. From embryo multiply, organize into tissue, organ system. Jadilah kamu bayi yang sempurna, baby. Jadi baby, dari embryo jadi baby. Tapi ada orang yang sudah tua pun dia masih jadi baby. Baby kepada pasangan dia. Okay, examples of cells. Example of cells macam dalam video itu dia bagi dua example kan, muscle cells and nerve cell. So setiap sel itu dia ada fungsi yang berbeza. Fungsi dia related to structure. Macam juga classroom kita. Yang ini dia menaikkan supaya kamu lebih senang nampak slide. Kalau di tutorial Kamu ada tutorial? Ada kan? Tutorial dia mendatar dan lebih kecil kan? Nanti kamu di makmal dia punya bangunan lagi beza. So setiap bangunan itu dia ada fungsi yang berbeza untuk lecture, untuk tutorial, untuk amali. Dan fungsi dia itu related dengan dia punya structure. Macam juga sel. Kalau nerve cell dengan red blood cell lain. Red blood cell dia lagi surface area dia tinggi sebab dia transport oksigen dan carbon dioxide. Menguap produce. Okay, this one actually is AI generated. Saya bagi gambar yang sebenar, gambar sel sebenar under microscope. Saya put into AI, and then I give a little prompt. Redesign or recreate this picture so that it will be more relatable to foundation student. Jadi dia bagi inilah. So is it relatable to you? Ya, sama pula kan. So jadi ini according to AI, benda nominal. Ya, kartun-kartun macam-macam. But I need to remind you, because you have so many assignment, lab report kan, you can use AI, but don't depend too much on AI. Because AI is not 100%. If you depend too much on AI, the AI will replace you. Nanti next year kami mengajar di sini AI semua. Tidak sudah. You are the final decision maker. So Bapak, kita tengok ada salah. AI ini dia tidak 100% betul. Ini premiumnya. Ini ada salah. Apa salahnya? Bacteria, plant stem. Satunya plant cell. Ini bakteria kenapa dia macam matahari? Nah, itu ada salah. Kamu kena cek balik. You boleh guna AI untuk ideation. Kita panggil the first step for you to produce writing, storytelling. Science is storytelling. The first thing is ideation. Macam mana kamu mau ada idea itu, kamu boleh guna AI lah. Itu memudahkan macam. Satu lagi salahnya apa lagi? Kamu boleh detect. Mana ada sel, ada mata, ada mulut kan? Itu dia kasih comel-comel supaya relate to you. So far ada question? Kalau kamu tidak soal, saya lanjut 2 menit habis lecture. Jadi kena banyak soalan. That's why saya banyak cerita-cerita lah supaya lecture saya panjang sikit. Kalau saya baca slide-nya 2 menit habis. Okay, everything that we learn from cell actually is from experimentation. Like the first part of the lecture, I mentioned that biology is not the reading subject kan. Biology bukan subjek membaca, tapi biology lebih kepada facts. Jadi facts itu dari mana? Dari experimentation. Experiment. That's why kalau kamu belajar biology, agri science, physics and everything, kamu kena setiap minggu buat experimentation, to familiarize yourself with experimentation. Jadi all the facts they come from previous scientists punya experiment. The first one that come up with the cell theory is Robert Hooke. Robert Hooke is the first person in our planet that observe cell. Kenapa dia observe cell? So, dia kerja. Bila kita tidak kerja, sekarang ni younger generation and even older generation biasa ada kerja. Kalau kita bosan buka handphone, TikTok. So we have a lot of distraction. Jadi that's why kita kurang innovation. Kalau kita mau innovation semacam Isaac Newton tadi, dia ada tersandar di pokok, dia terfikir. So orang bosan. Bila lanjut juga ada innovation, ada discovery. Macam Robert Hooke, apa saya buat hari ini? Observe cell. Nah, jadi the first person in our planet to observe cell gabus. But then Anton van Leeuwenhoek is the one that will innovate. Dia yang ada innovation. They innovate the microscope. Sebenarnya microscope sudah diproduce oleh orang-orang sebelum dia. Cuma Anton van Leeuwenhoek specific to cells yang functional that can observe small cellular structure. Until Matthias Gilden and Theodor Schwann, the microscope being advanced and more advanced. They become more advanced and advanced. Jadi kamu boleh nampak dengan lebih jelas. Gilden actually is botanist. Jadi research dia lebih kepada plant cell. And Swan, Theodore Swan is a zoologist. Jadi researchnya lebih pada animal cell. So they work together, they come up with the classical cell theory. But the problem with classical cell theory is that when they do experiment, like they put bread, roti, dia letak roti di atas meja, dia biarkan 2-3 hari. Tiba-tiba ada sel bulat kan? Kalau kita buat sekarang pun eksperimen dia akan dapat outcome yang sama, result yang sama. Tiba-tiba ada bulat. So the problem lies in that experiment. Dia ulang, according to Theodore Mendelssohn and Theodore Swan, cell can come from nothing, which they call spontaneous generation. Cells can come from nothing, which is very wrong, right? So at that time, many people don't agree with this. But up until 1855, baru dapat buktikan benda itu salah. Rudolf Virchow. Rudolf Virchow is the father of cell theory lah. So this one is very famous. Omnis cellula e cellula. All cells come from pre-existing cell. Jadi meaning that we have ancestor. We cannot be created from nothing. Jadi itu membuktikan keyakinan kita kepada creators. Kita dicipta. Means we come from our ancestors, our parents. Our parents come from their parents and so on. Balik atas ada satu our first ancestor, first human. Jadi itu menguatkan lagi the creators punya teori lah. Ada kita dicipta, bukan tiba-tiba muncul. Cell cannot come from nothing. If we come from nothing means ada yang mencipta. But if you learn biology, you need to be open-minded because they will disrupt your belief in your religions, disrupt your belief in Tuhan, God's creation. Sebab ada theory of evolution kan, creation theory, so on. Kita kalau secara biologinya, secara fakta, kita datang dari laut. Terus kita evolve, ada keluar kaki, ada ekor. Itu kita evolve together with the primates. Kita memilih untuk jadi manusia. Kita punya ada related ancestors. Dia jadi monkeys, gorilla itu. So actually kita datang dari cabang yang sama. Itu secara biologi lah. If you don't agree with that, then you need to do what Rudolf Virchow do. Do some other experiment, bagi fakta baru untuk mengidapkan fakta sebelumnya. So in science, there is no right answer, there is no wrong answer. It's always changing. Semakin orang buat eksperimen, semakin berubah. Tidak ada benda yang betul dalam sains. Jadi don't be afraid to ask question and everything. Don't be afraid to answer. Kalau saya tanya soalan, jawab. So, tidak semestinya jawaban kamu salah. Mungkin in the future jawaban kamu betul. Kan, macam Rudolf Virchow. Dia jawab mana boleh sel datang dari tiada. Semua orang tidak setuju dengan dia. Until 1855 dia buat some experiment to correct the cell theory. Okay, jadi cell theory yang di-develop dari all this history. New cells are formed from other existing cells. This one is directed from the books itself. And that the cell is a fundamental unit of structure, function, and organization in all living organism. Jadi yang paling penting itu is omnicellular in cellular cell theory. But then when we become more advanced, kita punya pengetahuan lebih advance macam during the COVID-19 kan, we know that DNA. Setiap organisme ini ada DNA kan. So we need to include that in our cell theory, modern cell theory. So the first three is the classical cell theory, including the Rudolf Virchow, and they become modern cell theory. So the more modern cell theory must include this additional three: genetic information, DNA, and you need to know about the chemical reaction. Because in our cells ada organelles, ya. For example, the mitochondria, chloroplast, ada cellular respiration, ada photosynthesis. So that is the chemical reaction in our cell. And lastly is cell activity depends on subcellular structure. Kalau dalam buku Campbell dia sebut compartmentalization. Macam dalam rumah kamu ada bilik-bilik yang berbeza. Setiap bilik atau bukan rumah lah, pejabat. Di pejabat PhD ada bilik-bilik yang berbeza. Ada pejabat timbalan PGP, pejabat pengarah, pejabat akademik. So semua itu organelles dalam satu pejabat. Sel itu pejabat, bilik-bilik office dalam dia itu organelle. So organelle itu boleh buat function dia sendiri, tapi as a whole they will work together for the cell to become functional, like function of the cell. Jadi soalnya coba, kan saya terlalu laju macam rem saja, tidak ada punya chorus, bila chorus dia. Oke, tadi saya mention trigger yourself, desire to learn kan, supaya kamu fokus sampai ujung semester, kamu masih lebih semangat untuk belajar. Biasanya student ini lepas sebulan sudah berkawan-kawan, dipilih push rank sudah, dia semakin reka. Macam tadi itu benda kedua, ketiga sudah dalam hidup dia. Nah, benda pertama mantap. Benda kedua rasuah, benda ketiga main game. So, benda-benda itu merosakkan seorang lelaki lah. Jadi kamu kena teruskan fokus kamu baik. Setiap satu topik itu kamu kena tanya. Not related to biology. Why we need to learn this thing? Kalau kamu tidak dapat cari jawaban, tanya lecturer. Kenapa kita perlu belajar? So I give you answer to the first topic. Why we need to learn cell theory? Why we need to learn about cell? Because we need to understand life. So kita pun ada cell kan? Jadi kita kena understand how our cell work. Jadi kalau kita sentiasa mengantuk, jangan kamu mengantuk sebab belum sarapan, kurang gula, atau terlebih gula kamu mengantuk juga. Lepas itu, you need to learn about growth and production and other functions. Maybe one day you will have a family, so you understand how to take care of your babies, how to take care of your pregnant partner juga. So kadang-kadang lelaki pun boleh pregnant, tapi tidak pernah lah pregnancy gitu. Terus itu we need to, so sekarang ada apa orang cakap tuh, implant transfer kan, ada di luar negara, lelaki pun pregnant. Boleh, everything is possible with biology. That's why as a biologist, especially biotechnologist lah. So biotechnology kamu boleh ubah genetik manusia, gene editing kita panggil. Kalau mau ada baby, kita boleh edit gene dia, bukan gene yang di Australia itu, genes dia punya DNA kita boleh edit. Dia jadi seperti yang kita mau lah, jadi K-pop lah, Tom Cruise dia dia sudah register banyak. Sebab dia agama psikologi, Tom Cruise dia ada banyak benda yang dia buat, is very biotech. Dia buat cloning, dia simpan dia punya clone, namanya apa? Okay, so we need to learn all this to understand our daily life. Semakin kita besar, macam dulu kamu mimpi, kamu boleh explain tuh biology kan? Kamu punya perubahan hormon lah, sudah jadi dewasa, sudah apa kita panggil dalam Malay balik. Siapa yang belum balik lagi? Semua sudah kan? Semua sudah main sekolah, so boleh discuss about biology openly juga kan? Semua sudah matang. So that's sort of thing why we need to learn about cells. Ada banyak lagi di sini. Kamu tanya ChatGPT, why we learn about cells? Why we learn about prokaryote, eukaryote? So ada banyak dia punya reason. Cara kamu untuk fokus, keep your focus. Dan bila kamu kurang minat cara belajar, tanya, why we need to learn all this? Mesti ada sebab. Macam teori Pythagoras, apa semua itu kita perlu belajar teori Pythagoras untuk buat jabatan dia lah, lecture, untuk buat kapal terbang. Kalau teori itu salah, kiraan dia salah, jembatan itu macam yang dituarang, dia bingkuk sedikit. Tahu aja macam tuarang. Ini tidak up to date dengan. Dan kita mau pilihan raya, saudara. Kamu nggak tahu undang-undang politik. Kamu yang menentukan masa depan bumi, kawan bumi dan sahabat. Dan 8, kamu 18 tahun boleh mengundi sudah. Nah, tapi sebelum itu kamu kena undi PTA dulu lah, yang asasi dengan PTA. Nanti ya bulan 8 kamu undi. Oke, second subtopic. So it's very simple. Kita cuma compare. Kamu belum ada soalan. Jadi saya pun tidak tahu sejauh mana pemahaman kamu. Anggap kamu paham ya. So setiap sel itu dia kena ada 4 benda. Plasma membran, cytoplasm atau cytosol, liquid cell, liquid dalam sel, DNA dan ribosom. 4 itu semua sel di dunia ada, semua sel di bumi. Kalau ada sel di bulan atau di planet Mars itu kita belum tahu lah. So kalau di bumi semua sel ada 4 benda ini. Cuma kamu boleh bedakan grup the cells into 2 major groups, which is prokaryotic and eukaryotic. If you direct translate pro and karyotic, pro Greek wordnya is before. Karyotic itu dari words karyot ataupun nucleus, so before nucleus. Kalau you means through nucleus. That's why in biology kalau kamu learn science, they encourage you to master more than one language. So pada language itu bila kamu kuasai, kamu lebih senang paham, lebih senang ingat. Macam Greek lah. Kalau pro before, karyot nucleus, before nucleus, through nucleus. Jadi biasanya adalah nucleus. Prokaryot no nucleus, so dia masih primitif, not fully evolved. Kalau eukaryotics complex cells, dia ada nucleus. Example of these two. Kalau prokaryotik kita ada bakteria and archaea, single cell. All prokaryotik are unicellular. Dia hidup sebagai single cell. Kalau eukaryotik dia multicellular. Tapi ada satu yang unicellular. Unicellular eukaryotik. Protis. Protis itu apa? Contoh deh. Yang tadi yang AI punya picture. Amoeba dengan Paramecium. So dorang ialah unicellular eukaryote. Dia eukaryote tapi dia unicellular. Mostly eukaryote is multicellular. Like human, ini monyetnya, itu gorila. Di hostel kamu baru monyet, gorila, macam-macam lagi kan. Bisa banyak. Ada yang hidungnya panjang lagi, proboscis monkey, ada banyak macam-macam. Tapi semua itu kawan kita, ancestor kita sama dari biologi ya. Secara biologi, kawan sama. Tapi yang di hostel dia tidak mengganggu kan, tidak mengacau lah. Dia mau kawan. Sebelum dia pun ada cita-cita mau melanjutkan perjalanan ke peringkat universitas. Tapi disebabkan keluarga dia tidak mampu, jadi dia tumpang-tumpang saja. Dan kamu saja itu. Kalau binatang ini dia boleh sense kan? Kalau kita takut baru dia serang. Jadi jangan takut. Kalau kamu takut pun buat tidak takut. Macam hantu juga kalau penakut dia tambah lagi dia suka kacau. Setelahnya ada anu sudah, ada sudah. Baru minggu kedua, biasa dia minggu keempat baru dia ini. Dia baik kamu orientasi, yang ini kita pakai. Tapi kena hati-hati lah, karena banyak baca-baca. So pada student kita kena gangguan last semester antara dia tempat ustaz. Oke, sudahlah. Cuma kena hati-hati, jangan buat benda-benda yang saya jarang buat cerita sama hantu. Jadi saya tidak tahu benda yang baru dia suka. Jadi baru-baru masih benda rasa. Tapi bukan student lah, nasibnya bukan student. Jadi kena berhati-hati. Jangan macam benda hantu dia suka, yang pembelaan gitu. Kita hantu. Kita kena menghormat. Tapi hantu itu wujud kan. Dari segi biologi, hantu itu halusinasi lah, halusinasi dari kita punya orang. Tapi kalau dari segi agama, hantu itu wujud kan. Penhantu lah, makhluk halus, yang halus saja halus. Makhluk kasar, makhluk kasar apa? Kalau makhluk halus dalam biologi inilah cells, bakteria makhluk halus, invisible to our eyes. So kita tengok beza prokaryotes dengan eukaryotes. Beza dia nukleus. Tapi selain itu juga kamu tengok from this picture, what else the different? Yang sangat ketara. Size, betul size. Prokaryotes dia lebih kecil. Walaupun dalam gambar saya boleh ubah. Tapi secara realitinya memang prokaryotes lebih kecil. Apalagi banyak beza itu. Eukaryotes ini lebih kompleks kan? Tengok, maksudnya banyak organelles. Organelles itu yang nih, mitokondria, mikrobili, sentrosol, dan sebagainya. Di sini tidak. Dia cuma ada ribosom. Dia ada 4 itu saja. So sel ada membran, cytosol, ribosom, DNA. 4 itu semua ada. Tapi yang lain berbeza. Oke, so ini nukleus, bentuk nukleus. Organel mau the cytostatic organelles. So I give you just nucleus lah, the most important. So nucleus itu lebih kurang begini. Dia ada nuclear envelope, so dia attached to rough ER. Sebab nanti saya tunjuk video. Nanti ada DNA itu kan, dia akan convert to mRNA. mRNA akan pergi ke rough ER. So mRNA itu akan pergi ke rough ER ini ada titik-titik. Titik-titik ini ribosom. So ribosom ini akan proses mRNA to form protein. Jadi protein itu yang akan jadi dia punya muscles, dia punya antibody, dia punya sel darah semua itu. The rest I just simplify. Nanti saya betulkan, nanti saya upload balik ke nota. Ini dia macam berulang. Okay, kita take 5-minute breaks if you don't have any question before we continue with the 2 subjects. So, komplit Anda boleh, kalau ada soalan malu-malu tanya boleh dalam 4. Okay, kita continue. Boleh? Okay. So untuk the third subject kita tengok macam mana cellular punya structure between plant and animal. So just now we discussed before the 5-minute breaks, we discussed about the prokaryotics, eukaryotics kan? And eukaryotics you can group them into 2. Boleh bagi kepada 2 lagi, which is eukaryotic plant, eukaryotic animal cell. So similar to the first picture that I show you between pro and you can detect some of the differences between these 2 cells, animal cells and plant cells. But the most obvious is cell wall. Yang paling ketara adalah cell wall. Second apa? Yang ini central back wall. Yang ini tidak. animal cell tidak. Lagi chloroplast. Sebab plant dia photosynthesis. For animal, cellular respiration. But plant they still have mitochondria. Sebab plant dia buat dua-dua. Cellular respiration and also photosynthesis. So dia ada dua-dua organelles pula. We look at the animal cell first. In animal cell point of view, what's present inside plant cell but not in animal cell? Apa yang ada dalam plant cell tidak ada dalam animal cell. Chloroplast, central vacuole because of photosynthesis. Kalau central vacuole, kenapa di plant ada, di animal cell? Sebab animal dia mobilize, dia ada mobility. For example, when the environment is too hot or too cold, ataupun hujan lebat, animals they can move around, right? To adapt to the environment conditions, they can go to mungkin di bawah pokok, dalam gua. Tapi untuk plant, whatever changes in the environment, apa-apa yang berlaku di sekeliling dia, dia kena stay di situ. So akar dia ada di situ. Jadi tiba-tiba kamu nampak pisang di jalan, bananas di jalan enggak lah kan. So plant they need central vacuole in order for them to control their cell, materials. For example, when the weather is too hot, they require to absorb water. So dia akan simpan di central vacuole supaya dia tetap kembang. Kalau hot kan biasa air akan transpirationnya, dia akan tersejat. So normally plant akan layu lah kalau dia tidak central vacuole. Tapi because they have central vacuole, they can withstand the environmental condition. Cell wall sama juga cell wall. Sebab dia stay di tempat yang sama, dia kena lebih ada boundary-nya lebih kuat lah banding animal. Animal beda. Sebab animal they can move around. And plasmodium mata. Plasmodium mata itu apa? Dia lubang kecil di antara cell wall itu. Because in between cell, like one cell, cell 1, cell 2 in plant cell, they need to communicate. They need to exchange material. They need to give food to their neighbor. And then this neighbor need to give waste. But because of the presence of cell wall, the food cannot pass through. Sebab cell wall is rigid, dia ada cellulose fiber. So in order to do exchange of material, dia kena ada plasmodium mata. Ada laluan macam terowong kecil lah. So food boleh melalui situ. Still can communicate. With cell wall, the two cell can still communicate. Kita tengok pula plant cell. What inside animal cell that is not present in plant cell? Apa yang ada di animal cell tapi tidak ada di plant cell? Because eukaryotes ini dia ada dua major evolution. Satu pergi ke arah plant evolution, satu ke arah animal evolution. So dia punya structure akan beza sedikit. Walaupun ancestor dia sama, which is the nucleus. Lysosome dia centriole flagella. Lysosome apa gunanya? Untuk digest materials. So in plant dia tidak makan, so dia tidak perlu digest. Plant tidak makan. Kecuali macam some of the parasitic plant lah, macam beruber, tapi itu dia guna enzyme, dia akan produce enzyme. But this one, the lysosome, inside the lysosome dia ada digestive enzyme. So enzyme itu di dalam sel. Kalau plant yang makan something, dia larutkan dulu baru dia absorb. Centrioles for plant used in cell division. Centrioles fungsinya adalah cell division. Kalau animal cell dia require centriole. Kalau dalam plant cell, the cellulose fiber yang ambil alih tugasnya. Cellulose fiber akan undergo the cell division process. So flagella, jadi Ukraine ada tanya flagella, why flagella is present in animal, not in plant cell? Sebab flagella itu untuk mobility, untuk pergerakan. The best example is amoeba bacteria. Bacteria in order to move, bacteria dia tidak ada kaki. guna flagella atau sperm. Sperm in order to swim to the ovum, dia ada ekor dia kan. Ekor itu adalah flagella untuk berenang. Tapi di sampah ada flagella, plant sperm. Sebab apa? Plant ini dia masih wujud dalam empat evolution step. Yang paling modern ialah yang berbunga dan berseed. Saya dah berbiji lain juga. Angiosperm, they have flowers, they have seed. The second evolution, gymnosperm, dia cuma ada seed. Yang the first and third tu is yang masih primitif. That is the one that bryophytes kita panggil yang ada di dalam longkang tu, lumut-lumut, itu primitive plant. Dia tidak ada seed, dia tidak ada flower. So in order for them to reproduce, they require flagella. Kemudian dia berenang. That's why lumut-lumut tu dia tumbuh di tempat yang lembab, sebab dia masih perlu berenang. Kalau angiosperm, bunga dia akan attract bees atau insect, kan? So insect yang akan sebarkan dia punya sperm from flower to flower. Okay, so dia tidak perlu flagella saja. Flagella is true for modern plant. Modern plant dia tidak perlu flagella. Tapi untuk animal cell dia masih perlu. Flagella itu yang ekor untuk bergerak lah. Sebab dalam badan kita sel-sel kita pun masih bergerak. Sel darah kita bergerak. Apa lagi yang bergerak? Sperm pun bergerak. Okay, so summary of the difference between animal and plant cell. First, cell wall. Kamu kena tahu kenapa di plant ada, kenapa di animal tidak. Baru kamu boleh ingat. Ini yang central backward. Why inside plant? Why no in animal? Why? Yeah. And then the shape. Kalau kita yang paling simple shape lah, bentuknya. Because of the presence of cell wall, the plant cell dia ada finite shape. Dia normally rectangular. For animal cell, they don't have cell wall, they are more pliable. Dia macam belun lah bila dia berubah-ubah bentuk. And lastly is the organelle. Kalau kamu lupa sudah jawaban apa, pikir you need to think about the organelle. Plant undergo photosynthesis, so they have chloroplast. Animal no chloroplast. Satu marker. Plant they don't have sperm, no flagella. Animal ada sperm, so they have flagella. Very simple. Okay, so far that's all. I like to use video in my lecture because your generations you like video, like TikTok, Netflix, to make the lecture more interactive. So I give you another video. Animal, next one.
Even if you're just studying, a lot of work is going on in your cells. Let's zoom down and check it out. We've arrived in the space between two cells. A sticky coat called the extracellular matrix holds the cells together. Each cell is surrounded by a flexible plasma membrane with an incredible number of projections, docking stations, and channels. Let's dive into one of these channels to enter a cell. Whoa, look at this place. These girders and cables make up the cytoskeleton, the structural framework of the cell. They also serve as tracks for transporting cargo from one place to another. All this activity in the cell requires energy in the form of ATP molecules, which are made here in the mitochondria. Notice the outer membrane and the inner membrane with its numerous infolinks. Many of the molecules involved in making ATP are built into the inner membrane. All those folds increase the inner surface area, enabling more ATP to be made. Moving towards the nucleus, we pass by layers of internal membranes. The nucleus is enclosed by a double membrane called the nuclear envelope. Let's enter the nucleus through a pore. The nucleus houses the genetic material of the cell. for making the cell's proteins. Almost 2 meters of DNA is crammed inside the nucleus. How does it all fit? The DNA is wrapped around proteins like thread wrapped around spools. Look, this section of the DNA has unwound and a different protein has attached to the DNA. DNA is being used as a template to make mRNA. mRNA molecules travel from the nucleus to the cytoplasm, carrying the instructions for making specific proteins. In the cytoplasm, a ribosome clamps onto a strand of mRNA. The ribosome ratchets along the mRNA, building a new protein. Some proteins stay in the cytoplasm. Others, like this one, are processed in special compartments within the cell. Protein processing and certain other metabolic activities occur in the endomembrane system, the cell's network of internal membranes. The endoplasmic reticulum, or ER, is part of the endomembrane system. There are 2 types of ER, rough and smooth. Rough ER is covered with ribosomes. Smooth ER lacks ribosomes. Lipids are made in the smooth ER. Let's go inside the rough ER. Note that you can still see the ribosome on the outside surface. The ribosome is manufacturing a new protein, which continues to grow inside the ER. Completed proteins move to the edge of the rough ER and depart in a vesicle that buds off from the ER membrane. Some vesicles fuse with the Golgi apparatus, another component of the endomembrane system. In the Golgi, proteins undergo further processing. Finished proteins are then packaged in vesicles that pinch off from the Golgi and are transported along cytoskeleton tracks. Some vesicles bind with the plasma membrane, secreting their contents outside the cell. Other vesicles, called lysosomes, contain digestive enzymes. Here, a lysosome fuses with a worn-out mitochondrion and breaks it down. Each of the trillions of cells in your body is a dynamo of activity, requiring millions of ATPs every minute. But most people are unaware of all this activity in their cells.
Okay, so dalam animal cells itu jadi kan ada banyak organel-organel, dia ada fungsi-fungsi dia tersendiri kan. But from nucleus, from the video you can see that from nucleus produce mRNA, mRNA go towards the nuclear envelope, ribosome and the endomembrane system, dia jadi proteins kan. For example, when you infected by disease, so you need to produce antibody. Jadi dia akan start dari nucleus. Dia akan bagi code, jadi mRNA jadi protein, nuclear envelope, nuclear membrane, sampai endomembrane system. They transport out of the cell, become the antibody. So they will kill the infection. So maksudnya dalam sel itu ada banyak organelles, ada fungsi tersendiri, bentuk dia pun macam-macam, tapi they work together. They work together to perform specific function or life function. Same thing with the animal cell, but a little bit different because of the structure and the organelles. Untuk plant cell. Come and identify what is the difference.
Their cells have many features in common, but there are a few significant differences. Let's look inside a leaf to take a closer look at plant cells. First, we encounter a protective cell wall outside the plasma membrane. The cell wall is made from strong cellulose fibrils. Once inside the plant cell, we see the large central vacuole, which regulates the composition of the cytoplasm, creates the internal pressure that is characteristic of plant cells, and stores various compounds produced by the cell. Plants make their own food by photosynthesis in chloroplasts. Light passes through the 2 membranes of the chloroplast and strikes these green discs, where light energy is converted to The sugar molecules produced by photosynthesis can be made into other molecules or broken down for energy. All plant cells have mitochondria, just like animal cells do. Sugars produced by photosynthesis are broken down and converted to ATP in mitochondria. Most organelles, like mitochondria, are found in both plant cells and animal cells. So the next time you pass by a plant, remember that we have more in common than meets the eye.
Lebih kurang sama, tapi ada beberapa perbezaan kan?
No comparison. Comparison. The plant and animal. So in more details in the video, so each of the organelles I summarize everything. Chloroplast, what is the structure, what is the function. Normally they will ask you about either the structure or function or both. What is the structure and atau how can you explain the structure related to the mitochondrial function? That is CT level question. If they want to compare the structure of mitochondria and chloroplast. Compare the functions of mitochondria and chloroplast. So something like that. Okay. So far okay? Okay. Kita mengatur sudah. Tunggu, ada 10 slide lagi. 10 slide, tapi satu slide 10 menit. Okay, this one. We know that from the first slide, we know that the cells are very small that we cannot see using our eyes. So in order to view the cell, observe, to study the cell, you need microscope tools that we call microscope. So microscope has the ability to magnify object. For example, light microscope, they can magnify an object or specimen, cells, to 1,000 times, 1000 kali lebih besar. Maksudnya kalau kamu 10 meter kali 1000 lah, itu size. Dan kita main-main di, kalau mati karet, mati lampu, kan ada lilin kan gitu. Buat begini ada bayang-bayangnya kan. Same thing with your projector. Projector actually dia pass through the light, jadi dia boleh besarkan slide itu. Dalam laptop kecil, tapi di sini dia besar, sensor besar. So the other microscope is electron microscope. The difference between these two is the light source. How can we see things? Maksudnya kita boleh nampak benda. Sebab cahaya itu dia terpantul kan, macam daun warna hijau. Dalam pelangi itu ada banyak cahaya kan. Itu adalah wavelengths dalam light. So dia ada berbeza-beza spektrumnya. Cuma yang dipantul oleh daun warna hijau adalah warna hijau saja pantul. The rest of the color they absorb. That's why they look like that. So same thing with microscope. Dia perlukan light source untuk kamu nampak. Tapi because you want to magnify kan. For example, if you look at fish inside the river. Kalau kamu tengok ikan dalam air, sebenarnya ikan itu kedudukan dia bukan yang kamu nampak kan, but because of the light bend, bukan bend, dia akan membengkok batu. Light when they pass through different medium, for example air and water, udara dan air, kelajuan dia akan berbeza. Di udara dia lebih laju, di dalam air dia lambat sedikit. So that's why dia macam bengkok gitu. Mau tulis ini. Baiklah, kamu imagine lah, So light itu lurus, tapi bila dia sampai air, medium berbeza, speed dia kurang. Jadi instead of lurus, dia bengkok situ. That's why yang kamu nampak tuh ikan tuh sebenarnya dia lebih jauh lagi daripada yang sebenar. Ya. Kalau pemancing atau yang tumbak ikan itu dia boleh berbeza. Same thing with light microscope. Dia akan bend the light but not using water. Jadi the light source will pass through air and they will enter lenses. Lenses itu mediumnya glass. Lenses they will pass through, so dia akan bend the light. Jadi light itu akan magnify. Macam bayang-bayang apa lah, if you can imagine your shadow. Kalau matahari tegak, shadow kamu kecil kan. Tapi kalau matahari jauh sedikit, kalau kita mau tengok waktu sholat zaman-zaman dulu kan, kita guna kayu. Jadi dia boleh bayang-bayang kayu itu kita boleh predict waktu sholat kapan. Ataupun jam juga kan, guna matahari. Ada yang bentuk jam dulu-dulu tuh, jam matahari. So sebab dia punya light itu boleh
Macam kita pakai mata ni lah, glasses. Sebenarnya light itu dibetulkan angle ya. Ya, angle. Ini buat saya boleh. Contohnya light itu gitu. Ini spesimen kamu. Light source di bawah. Jika dia jumpa lenses, light itu akan bengkok. Bengkok. So bayang-bayang dia besar. Ini mata kamu. Nampak tak? So that's how the specimen is being magnified. Dia macam konsep bayang-bayang lah. Itu kita panggil projection. Projections of the specimen. Macam ni. So di sini light source, it goes through your specimen, it goes through two lenses. Ini lenses pertama, objective lens, ini ocular lens. Sampailah ke, this one objective lens, ocular lens di situ. Itu mata kamu. So yang kamu nampak bayang-bayang image tu, tapi sudah di magnify. If we remove the lenses, then the size will be the same. But if you put the lenses at the right angle yang betul, kamu akan nampak lah. Macam siapa-siapa pakai glasses, dia akan kira dulu kamu punya kadar rabun tu kan, baru dia adjust the lenses. So semua lenses kita berbeza-beza. Macam saya 10.000, kamu berapa? 100, saya 100 ya. 200 berapa? 70 170. So beza-beza, dia akan adjust angle. Kalau saya pakai dia punya, saya tidak boleh nampak. Tapi this one you can adjust. If you use microscope, you can adjust actually. So it can become clear. Even though kamu rabun ke apa, you can adjust. So kalau kawan kamu rabun, kalau kamu tengok, kawan kamu dulu tengok the specimen, kawan kamu tengok, dia tidak akan nampak lah, dia kena adjust balik. Tapi kalau dua-dua tidak rabun atau degree kamu sama, dia sama lah. That's why when I help student, kalau kita pergi sekolah rendah kan, kita bagi dorang mikroskop, 1 jam pun belum dorang nampak. Susah. Dorang tidak skill mikroskop tu kan. Bila saya tolong, dorang tidak nampak clear. Sebab itu guna saya punya degree. That's why when I use microscope, I will use my glass. Tapi normally kalau yang pakai glass tu dia buka lah, supaya dia boleh nampak lebih clear.
Okay, boleh? So when you use microscope, there are 3 things that you need to consider. Setiap eksperimen kamu perlu guna mikroskop yang berbeza. Jadi kamu kena tahu dia punya magnification. Macam kalau kamu mau besarkan image itu 2000 kali, kamu tidak boleh guna light microscope. So dia cuma boleh besarkan limited to 1000 times saja. And resolution itu macam handphone kamu lah atau screen. Semakin tinggi resolution, semakin clear kan. Resolution is how you differentiate between 2 point adjacent to each other. Pixel, kalau tinggi pixel kayak kamera kamu tinggi pixelnya, resolutionnya, bila kamu zoom tidak pecah. Kalau pecah maksudnya resolutionnya rendah. Ini kontras you need to consider if your specimen is light in color or dark in color. If your specimen is light in color, the background need to be dark supaya dia ada kontras. Kontras is between your specimen and the background. Semakin tinggi kontrasnya, semakin jelas the image, clarity of the image. So all these things you need to consider. This is the basic structure of microscope. So setiap mikroskop dia akan ada ocular lens, objective lens, dan light source. Okay, ini macam tu tadi saya explain. So the light source, your specimen is very small, but it can be magnified to 1000 times. Kalau kita magnify, bayang-bayang dia kamu nampak tu lebih besar. So that is how the specimen size can be magnified by using microscope. Pengiran, contoh pengiran. This one nanti kamu akan buat lebih banyak di dalam mapal. So the real size you can predict or you can calculate, you can measure using this equation. Magnification is the image size divided by the real size. If you know either two of these, normally magnifications you know. Because when you use microscope, you know that the ocular lens is 10 times, the objective lens is either 4 times, 40 times, 100 times, 10 times, 40 times, or 100 times. Dia ada 4 objective lens yang kamu boleh gunakan. So magnifications normally you know the value, either what, image size or real size. So kalau kamu mau tahu real size ya, real size normally kita tidak tahu lah. Image size kamu boleh ukur di dalam kertas. Dalam kertas tuh kamu ukur, atau dalam Microsoft Word kamu boleh double klik ya, tengok picture properties. So dalam picture properties itu ada size. So you can use these equations, you can find the real size of the specimen. 0.3 millimeter, for example. So the real size of the cell is 0.3. This one is cell bawang. Okay. Bawangnya cell. So nanti kamu akan buat dalam amalia. Okay, soalan. This one is very technical ya. When you do study about microscope, it can be very technical. Ada pengiraan dan measurement. But when you use the 100 times lenses, because they can be limited to 100 times, the problem will be the light will bend too much. If the light bend too much, when you use the magnifications that is very high, you cannot see anything. Macam kamu nampak, kalau kamu pening tuh, kamu nampak surga-surga yang putih-putih kamu nampak. Kamu cuma nampak light dia, light dia is very scattered. But the image punya projections you cannot see much. So you need to refocus the light. Dia sudah kena bend kan, tapi bila kamu guna objective lens yang terlalu besar 100 times, the light will bend too much. So in order to prevent that, you need to use another medium, which is the immersion oil. So kalau dia melalui immersion oils, the light can be refocused straight to your eyes. Kamu boleh jawab straighten the light atau prevent the light from bending too much. So bila kamu guna immersion oil, dia boleh refocus, then the image can be clear. So every time you use microscope, kalau kamu perlu guna dia sampai magnifications dia yang paling tinggi, always ask for immersion oil. Ada tuh dia, cuma dia tidak bagi kamu. So normally in lab kita tidak akan guna 100 times, only special condition. Okay, so like I mentioned just now, light microscope punya limit is 1,000 times. Other than that, if you you want to observe smaller than that, like virus, ribosome, protein, lipid, and so on, you need to use electron microscope. Kenapa electron microscope boleh observe benda yang lebih kecil daripada light microscope? Sebab light source dia ialah electron beams. What is the difference between electron beams and light microscope? Wavelength. Light source, normal light, ini semua normal light lah. Wavelength dia agak besar. Jadi resolution dia is limited. Lama-lama dia akan pecah kalau kamu magnify terlalu banyak. Untuk kekalkan resolution yang tinggi, kamu kena guna wavelength yang kecil. So in order to do that, you need to use different light source, which is one of the option is electron beam, electron particle. Dia akan bombard the electrons. Bila kamu bombard electrons to the machines, they will produce radiation atau light. Ya, wavelength dia kecil. So they can observe smaller structure with high clarity. Sangat jelas image dia. Cuma dia more expensive. Electron microscope itu kita ada di faculties dengan di Institute Biotechnology. So this is the difference between light microscope and electron microscope punya picture. Ini light microscope sangat 2D, ini 3D dan lagi jelas. So electron microscope you can divide into two. SEM, TEM. SEM dia cuma boleh observe di surface, cell punya surface. For example, cilia yang kamu observe yang ini, yang macam rambut-rambut itu. So kalau kamu guna SEM, dia akan nampak surface dia, 3 dimensional. Kalau kamu guna TEM, kamu nampak inside dia, focus on the inside. TEM stands for transmission electron microscope, meaning that the light need to pass through the inside of the specimen. Jadi kamu kena potong dia dulu. In order to observe something, you need to cut them into very small pieces, sangat nipis lah. Tapi kalau untuk kamu guna TEM, nipis dia tu mesti sangat nipis, senipis iman, nipis yang terlalu nipis. Jadi kamu tidak boleh guna stapler. Dia ada alat yang spesial, kita panggil dia microtome mesin. Dia akan cut. Kalau kamu cut, tidak. Macam kamu potong sayur, dia nipis kan, dia tebal. Marah-marah. Bawang kena potong nipis. Kalau goreng dia rambut. Crunchy bawang. Siapa pernah potong bawang? Jangan kan, remaja sekarang potong bawang. Dia cuma potong line saja. Time register, potong-potong line. So ini beza ya. TEM, SEM. SEM untuk apa? Surface. TEM untuk internal. Oke, ini TEM, SEM dengan TEM. Yeastnya sel. Kalau dia surface, dia 3D. Ini macam kartun-kartun sedikit. Tapi ini real image tau. Inilah dalamnya. Cuma untuk light microscope dengan electron microscope, kalau kamu mau observe benda hidup, still kena guna light microscope. Sebab kalau kamu guna electron microscope, dia kena proses the sample, and electron beam itu kan bahaya, ada radiation. Sampel itu kena dalam keadaan mati. Normally for SEM kita coat dia dengan gold particle. Sebelum kita observe dia, you need to cut using gold particle. Kena coat dia, macam cat lah. Spray dia dengan gold particle, baru masukkan dia dalam electron microscope, baru boleh observe. Sebab dia guna electricity, dia akan scan, bombard the radiation, and produce this image. Kalau light microscope dia straightforward. Terus ke mata kamu. Kalau ini dia pergi screen. Kalau electron microscope kamu tidak guna mata, nanti rosak mata. Dia akan produce image dalam screen lah. Okay, this one is why cell very small. Kita sudah discusskan tadi, cell smallest structural unit and they only can be observed using microscope. But kenapa sel diciptakan kecil? Kenapa perlu kecil? Kenapa sel perlu kecil? Tidak bolehkah dia besar? Macam tanggung jawab ibu bapak. Besar sebesar kesilapan lalu kita. Kenapa sel perlu kecil? Dari sini cari jawaban lagi. Kenapa? Surface area. So sel memerlukan surface area yang besar, ratio dengan volumenya. Kalau semakin besar benda, surface area dia semakin kecil. Kan? Jadi in order to maintain the surface area, high surface area compared to volume, sel tu kena arrange in blocks. Dia lebih better kalau kita arrange macam organisme. That's why organisme dia banyak sel. Kalau kita pecahkan, kita jadi begitulah. Bukan blok besar-besar. Sel jadi blok besar. No, kita macam Lego. Dia cantum, baru kita jadi manusia. Kalau yang ini macam apa? Kalau benda kecil jadi besar, macam plastik. Tahu apa plastik? Yang kita boleh dilekatkan jadi besar. Kita tidak begitu. Kita macam Lego. Dia susun jadi begitu. So apa? To maintain high surface area. Kenapa sel benda hidup perlu surface area? Untuk function efficiently. So kita kena transport material. Macam saya explain the cell, plant cell tadi itu, plasmodesmata, dia kena exchange material. In order to function properly, cell need to exchange material between them. Macam kita menghirup udara, oksigen. We need to oksigen. Kalau bakteria dia terus masukkan. So bakteria dia tidak hidung, dia cuma single cell. Dia boleh exchange oksigen dan carbon dioxide less than 1 second pun boleh. Tapi kalau human, you need to first inhale. Dia masuk melalui hidung, pergi esophagus, di paru-paru, baru pergi salur darah, baru pergi otak kamu. Itulah dia lambat sampai otak oksigen itu pulang omongan. Dia salah mengantuk. Biologi kan? Kenapa saya sentiasa mengantuk ya? Mungkin saya kurang oksigen. Mungkin in the future kita akan pakai yang tabung oksigen itu, baru kita tidak mengantuk. Oke, last one. Ini saya bagi video lagi. So kalau macam mau habis baterai sudah bagi video yang comel-comel sedikit. So ini saya explain macam mana sel tadi dia grup jadi tisu, jadi organ sistem, organisme. So kena ingat kita punya organization is like this, not like this. Dia tidak bercantum, dia cuma melekat yang tidak kekal. Dia boleh terurai. Sebab apa? Untuk kekalkan space area. So yang paling basic is cell, tissue, organ system, organism. Sampai sini saja untuk chapter ini. Yang the rest nanti chapter lain. Kita tengok video dia macam mana dia berlaku. Macam mana cell arrange into tissue arrange into organ system.
If I asked you to describe the biological levels of organization, could you do it? What would those levels be? Actually, what would be the point about caring about them in the first place? Well, biological systems are composed of many levels, and we care about them because when these levels are analyzed, it's possible to relate the levels not only to each other, but the whole system. All of our videos tend to focus on one start a third level. You have a lot of organs in your body. An example of an organ would include your heart. When you have multiple organs working together, you end up with the next level, an organ system. Consider the digestive system. It includes your stomach, the small intestine, the large intestine, liver, etc. These particular organs work together to help you digest your food and to use the food for energy that you need for all kinds of cell processes. The digestive system is just one example of an organ system. But tie in all of the organ systems and what do you get? An individual, an organism, like
Oke,
you,
sampai situ je lah.
or this platypus. Is that organ systems too?
Platypus.
And you have a lot of platypus together. What's the
Ini
role of
population.
platypus?
Lepas tu dia jadi
Where did you
community.
share that values?
Kalau kamu tengok video itu, dia ada banyak example of video like that. You can go to YouTube, Amoeba Sisters. So dia banyak explain benda in very basic way. I used to use that for example. My previous video is not for public. That one is from Canva. Jadi video-video yang sebelum ini, this one is for public. Amoeba Sisters. Okay. So dari video itu kita tahu kita dari sel, jadi tisu, jadi organ. Jadi kamu kena tahu setiap definitionnya. Sel apa definitionnya? Tisu ini definitionnya. A group of similar cell, specific function. Jadi dua dia punya keywords is similar cell, specific function. Dua keywords. So kalau sel dengan animal dia straightforward kan. If tissue arrangement in plant and animal dia ada beza dia sedikit. Kalau dalam animal dia ada straightforward, epithelial, connective, muscle, nanti organ pun dia akan begini. Tapi untuk contoh dia lah, muscle cells function dia untuk movement, nervous communication. Kalau connective apa tadi? Support, transport. This one, epithelial tissue protection, macam kulit kamu lah. Tapi untuk plant lain sikit, dia ada meristem dengan permanent, meristematic dengan permanent. Terlebih, meristem permanent. So meristem ni plant cell yang plant tissue yang always divide. So dia ada dua jenis lah, tiga jenis. Apical dengan lateral. Apical dia memanjang. So setiap kali kamu punya plant memanjang, dia akan divide di ujung dia, di ujung akar, di ujung pucuk dia. Okay. And then lateral meristem dia melebar. That's why plant dia ada dua growth, only two direction, growth horizontal and vertical. Kalau human kita membesar selari, kepala besar, dia tidak vertikal dalam horizontal. So itu beza pembesaran tisu dalam plant dan animal. Intercalary meristem itu yang untuk renewal. Kan plant kadang-kadang daripada luka juga kan, so dia akan provide new cells for breeding. So apical untuk memanjang, lateral untuk melebar. Permanent tissue nanti kamu akan belajar in chapter transport, especially the phloem and xylem. Simple and complex tissue. Difference between simple and complex permanent tissue is kalau simple tissue dia cuma ada satu jenis sel. Kalau kompleks like xylem phloem dia ada more than one type of tissue. Kalau xylem dia ada tracheids dengan basal elements, sama juga macam phloem. Okay. So untuk organ similar, plant and animal similar. Apa yang mau nampak itu is organ. Kalau macam human, what is the largest organ in animal? Skin. Bukan skin yang di Mobile Legends lah, skin kita dia paling besar. Kalau kita remove semua sel skin kita besar saja. Di mana-mana pun ada skin. Kalau di plant, organ dia ada bunga, flower, apa lagi? Stem, root, leaf. Kalau organ dalam plant very simple. Apa yang kita nampak itulah organ dia. Kalau di manusia ada organ yang kita tidak nampak. Macam apa? Hati. Selalu kita tidak nampak hati seorang manusia. Jantung ya. Kenapa dalam Malay jantung bukan hati? Kalau English heart is the heart kan jantung. Tapi kalau dalam Malay jantung hati lain. Kenapa? Sebab Malay dia lebih poetik, puitis. Jantung dan hati. Sudah ada jantung, ada hati. Oke, itu saja. This one last. Kalau dia jadi organ system, dia give you example. I give you example digestive system. So dalam digestive system ini dia ada banyak organ bekerja sama. In order, apa fungsi digestive system? Untuk produce air. Itu dia punya waste. Dia untuk digest food in order to absorb energy. Kita makan something, kita absorb energy. So what the process? Kita guna mulut kita dulu. Guna mulut kita makan, punya sampai area bertambah, pergi esophagus, pergi stomach, liver itu untuk the bilirubin parts. So kita akan absorb di small intestine. So ada waste nya, large intestine, jadilah tahi. Ya. Jadi last thing you learn today is tahi. Digestive system. So ada banyak lah kalau untuk plant, root system, shoot system. Kenapa perlu ada waste tadi? Kita kan mau makan. Kenapa tidak all the food 100% convert into energy? Ada juga dia punya waste product. Why? Efficiency. Itu jual kereta kan? Minyak itu bukan 100% jadi power, ada jadi pasang. So we are created not 100% efficient. We make mistake. Kita banyak kelemahan sebagai manusia. Saya sendiri pun banyak kelemahan. Macam dalam lecture ini banyak kelemahan. Jadi for you, we are created by siapa-siapa yang create kita, not 100% efficient. So don't worry if you make mistake. Don't be afraid to make mistake. Because we are created not 100% efficient. If we cannot make mistake, we should be created 100% efficient, but that is not the case. Jadi throughout this semester, please ask question, answer question. Don't worry to be wrong, because you are not 100% efficient. Don't worry to make mistake. Yakin dengan diri sendiri. Boleh? Okay, so for that I will end my lecture today. I wish you all the best for the rest of your semester. This is the first and last class for me this semester.